Welcome to Take 5 with the Top 50, the video interview series with Atlantic Business Magazine's Top 50 CEOs. Each episode, we ask 5 questions to find out what makes these award-winning leaders tick. I'm Shane Snow, a partner in the New Brunswick practice with presenting sponsor Grant Thornton. In this episode, I'm talking to Blair and Rosalyn Hyslop, co-CEOs of Mrs. Dunster's Inc. Twice a week, their company delivers fresh baked goods to 800 customers within the Maritimes and the state of Maine. Having tripled the size of their business, they opened a new 40,000 square foot bakery in Moncton this year, which is the first new bakery of its size to have been built in Atlantic Canada in the last 20 years. Thanks for joining me. Let's get started. I recall hearing this story at a junior achievement banquet before, and so I'll bring it up again. But so you both met at junior achievement in 1988, and you talked about owning your own business on your very first date. Tell me, what does entrepreneurship mean to you?
So that is sort of our story. I was sort of raised in New Brunswick, but we moved to Nova Scotia at a certain point, and I enrolled in junior achievement there, and Rosalyn was in junior achievement in St. John. And when she finished high school, she moved to Halifax, where I was, and I just finished the program, and she had finished the program, and we both wanted to give back, so we both offered to volunteer our time with junior achievement, and so it was time to go into the high schools and sort of explain the program to high school students and do some recruitment. So they said, I want you to go to Prince Andrew High School on Friday at 10 o'clock, and this girl from St. John will meet you there, and you guys can go into classrooms and talk about junior achievement together. And so that's how we met. And and absolutely on our first date, we talked about someday owning our own businesses and what that would look like and so on. So entrepreneurship, what does that mean to us? That's a big question, Shane, in terms of how to approach that. I think what it means for us, or what we get most enjoyment out of it, I guess, is creating opportunities and for employees and families. We take the most pleasure, I think, out of the fact that we've created a few hundred jobs in our little corner of the world where there historically hasn't been a lot of jobs, and that weighs heavily on us, that we have a couple of hundred families that depend on us, at least in part, for their livelihood. And so the opportunity to create something unique and to give back to the communities that we're in and give us the opportunity to do that, I think is pretty unique part of entrepreneurship. The other thing I think about entrepreneurship is that we jokingly say an entrepreneur is someone who's willing to work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours a week, and for somebody else. So, and I guess what we mean by that is the flexibility that gives you in terms of working when you're at your best, and having some flexibility to sort of come and go as you please is kind of an interesting part of entrepreneurship. But the impact, I think, on communities is the big thing. Yeah, I don't know. How would you answer that?
I don't know. I guess too, I agree with that, but just the being able to do this from home as well, be an entrepreneur in the place where we live, and is very
being New Brunswick community.
Yeah, Atlantic Canada, whatever. Yeah, so that's super important to us, and and I think it's important for us, even back when we first met and we were going into schools, and that was kind of our first kick at the can at encouraging other young people to consider entrepreneurship. And that's kind of our thing now, is still that we are trying to encourage young people to look at entrepreneurship and to let them know that they can stay home and be successful here. And so that's another important part for us, I think.
And that whole idea of, that junior achievement dinner you're talking about, that was one of our objectives, was to communicate to young people that they can stay home and be successful. And, one of the things that one of our strengths in Atlantic Canada is kind of our humble nature, right? And people like entrepreneurs that are successful, like to fly under the radar. I'm sure you've heard it 1,000 times, where you're shocked by somebody's success in the region. And it's like, how come nobody knows about all of the success? Oh, I like to fly under the radar. I don't, like to be humble about our success. The problem is that if we overplay that strength, then it becomes a weakness. And so what we've done in Atlantic Canada as entrepreneurs by not talking about our success is that we've taught a generation that you can't stay here and be successful. We've created that perception. So, what we are passionate about in terms of entrepreneurship is getting those stories out there so that people understand some of the amazing work being done in Atlantic Canada by entrepreneurs, and that these are people that have created their own opportunities. And I think we're at a unique time, really. When I was young, and when Rosalyn and I met, there wasn't a lot of support out there for entrepreneurs. The idea of being entrepreneurial was kind of crazy. And why wouldn't you just go get a job somewhere and and have a good sort of steady Eddie kind of approach to life, or go to work for the government, right? Which is what many Atlantic Canadians have strived to do for a number of generations. So, but now there's so many vibrant ecosystems of entrepreneurs and startups, and so much support and mentoring, that it's fun to be able to encourage that in our young people in the region. I think we have a very, in Atlantic Canada, we have the population of Mississauga. And so we need to create our own opportunities, because we're never going to have all the big head offices and regional offices. We're not big enough as a region. So we have to create those ourselves. And so that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And there's so many businesses and entrepreneurs out there in New Brunswick and Atlantic Canada that are doing amazing, awesome things. And everyone's always to us like, oh, I can't believe what you guys are doing. It's so incredible. It's so amazing. And it's not really that amazing. There's a lot of entrepreneurs doing what we're doing. They're just not talking about it. And we are. And so we're very purposeful about that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think that's what differentiates you from the rest is how open you are. You don't flaunt your success, but you do talk about your success when it's appropriate, and you don't hide. I hear so many stories of successful entrepreneurs hiding and parking their BMW behind the shed because they don't want their neighbor to know how successful they are here in Atlantic Canada. So not that you guys are flaunting your success, but you're obviously talking about the business in general and how you're trying to grow it. So that's great. Thank you.
That's how we grow the region, right? By talking about it, and so that young people know they can stay here, and then they do stay here and build their businesses, and that makes a better economic area for all of us. So
yeah, thank you. So fast forward to 2015, and your purchase of Mrs. Dunster's. How did you know this was the right investment for you?
Well, a lot of it was luck, to be honest. So how did that happen? So how did we know? So I had started my career in the bakery business. So I'd spent the first 6 years after that meeting in Halifax. Rosalyn was from St. John. We moved to St. John. I went to work for a company called Eastern Bakeries, which a lot of people would remember as sort of butternut bread and Cairns bread and all those fabulous brands. And so I had spent 6 or 7 years working in the fresh bakery business in the direct-to-store distribution model, which is a unique distribution model, and where we deliver, to grocery stores ourselves every day. And so I was very familiar with that. And as I, went on with my career with, McCain Foods and Moosehead and others, staying in the food business, but there's nothing more exciting in the food business than being in the fresh business, where you have no inventory and every day you have to deliver to 600 stores. The whole supply chain side of that and the challenges of that and the distribution and the freshness of it are kind of unique. So I'd always missed it. And as I traveled around the world working for McCain and others, and we'd go into grocery stores and, Mexico or Dubai, I'd always go to the bakery section. I'd always, look around and see what that category was like. So it was always an interest. And so when this opportunity came up, I was working for GE Barber in Sussex, and And of course, Mrs. Dunster's was a Sussex-based business, and they were being sold to Agripure, and Agripure, being a dairy, had no interest in owning a bakery, so that they gave the direction to the management team to sell the bakery. So they came in and thought, well, maybe Barbers would be interested in that because they're a local food company. And I was sitting around the table, and as they described the challenges and the opportunities and the brand, it just all seemed so familiar. And also we had been fans of the brand forever. So I went home that night. I knew Barbers was not going to, it was a totally different business than Barbers, and I knew, and Barbers was growing really, really fast, and they had a lot of opportunities in front of them. So I figured Barbers was not going to make the decision to purchase it. But I went home that night and said to Rosalyn, I think I found it, found the business that we've been looking for 25 years. And the funny part of that story is 8 weeks later we owned it. So
That's crazy.
it was quite a roller coaster ride. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That must have been, Rosalind, what did you think of that? That, obviously Blair had some history in the industry, but obviously it's a new industry for you. Did you have any concerns about that?
No, I just, when he explained the opportunity, I could see how much potential was there, and that we could add value to that and make it into something. So it's just that, as Blair said, things just kind of seem to fall into place, and it finally seemed like it was the right time. The kids were a good age, and and it just seemed like a really good fit for us. A local business, a strong brand, and like every Sunday when I was a kid, our treat was Mrs. Dunster's donuts. So yeah, so I it felt right from as soon as he started talking about it. I'm like, yeah, okay, this is our business. This is what we're gonna do. So
Great. Thanks, guys. So you've described your business as being bigger than the small guys and smaller than the big guys. What does that mean exactly?
What it means is, the example that I often use is, if you were to take something like a typical maritime molasses brown bread, which is a very regional thing, and if, let's say, Sobeys or Superstore or any one of those guys wanted to have that product, in that Mrs. Dunster's makes an awesome molasses brown bread, and we sell it in our stores, and it's very popular. And let's say one of those accounts wanted to have it in their stores in Atlantic Canada. Well, maybe that's 100,000 loaves of bread a year. Well, for the big guys that are running plants at 10,000 loaves an hour, that's like 5 or 10 minutes of production twice a week. They're not interested in that. It's just doesn't fit their business model. And for the little guys, that's 100,000 loaves of bread. That's a lot of bread. And how could they do it? And if they could do it, they don't have the means to get it to 100 Sobeys stores. So for us, that's perfect. That's right in our wheelhouse. That's the business we want. The stuff that's, the big guys don't want because it's too small for them, and the little guys can't do because it's too big for them. So we're right in that sort of sweet spot, right in the middle. And so we have a lot of customers. We have the flexibility. We have lines that make a lot of bread and a lot of rolls and pizza shells and things, and at high speeds, and can compete with sort of the big folks on that stuff. But then we also have in each of our bakeries small batch lines that make 3 dozen squares, or a couple of dozen pies, or what have you, for our own stores. So we have a lot of flexibility. We can act like the big guys, we can act like the little guys, based on our setup. So and because we have 4 stores of our own, we have a lot of products in our portfolio that we can play with in terms of research and development and using to grow the business. If you think about it, when we bought Mrs. Dunster's, we had 1 store, and we had 170 products going to 1 store, and we had 13 products going to 600 stores. So even if our thought was, even if we could take 1 or 2 of those products from 1 store to 600 stores, we could be successful. And that's what we did. And it worked. Continues to work.
Yep.
Right. Excellent. Thank you. So in 2019, you changed your focus from growing your top line to growing and focusing on your bottom line. How did that change the way you lead?
It's another big question. I think we were growing so fast for so many years that we just needed to take a break from that and try to get our systems and processes caught up. So, when you put that much growth on a business without making sure your systems and processes are keeping up with that growth, then it becomes stressful for everybody. So we just decided that we needed to just stop and work on the getting those systems and processes in place, and looking at innovation and those types of things, and trying to just right size the business, I guess.
Yeah, I would say in terms of how it changed how we lead is that, we used to solve problems a lot, did a lot of firefighting. And to the point where, Roslyn used to say, it's our job to solve problems. Like, this is what we're here for. And we changed. Now we look at everything as a process, a broken process. So the problems that come out, we used to try to fight the fires and put out the fires. And now we look at it and say, well, obviously the process is broken. That didn't happen. So let's focus on, maybe takes more energy and more time, which is hard to do when you're growing fast, but let's take the time and fix the process so that we don't ever have to come back and solve the problem again. And so that's really been the big shift for us in terms of that, is focusing on processes rather than problems, and the processes that'll, stop the problems from happening in the first place.
Right. Okay. Excellent. Thank you, guys. So the final question I have is, as busy as you are, you both make the time to mentor other entrepreneurs through the Wallace McCain Institute. You even provide advice and assistance to other mid-stage food companies. Why is this so important to you?
Well, it's important to us because one of our values as an organization and as a family is that, we believe that everybody has superpowers and they have the obligation to use your superpowers for good. And so for us, what, we seem to be able to provide support for people in a way and leverage our experience to help them grow, so that they seem to appreciate that. We enjoy doing it, and it's a way for us to really use our superpowers for good, in terms of spending time and helping grow the region, as Rosalyn talked about before. And I think important part of it is trying to, as Rosalyn talked about earlier, demonstrating to people that you can be successful here. Also, I think, we've had a lot of benefit from people mentoring us, right?
That's right. Kind of paying it forward, and
Right.
There's a lot of support there, and I think that's a big thing, especially in Atlantic Canada, is just having that support system. Being an entrepreneur, as you often hear, it's a lonely world out there, and not a lot of people understand your challenges, and that even though we're not working for somebody else, that means we're taking work home with us, and a lot of people don't understand that. So and it's 24/7. So having a support group around you to help you through those challenges is key to any entrepreneur's success.
I think one of the rare things about working in New Brunswick as an entrepreneur, or in Atlantic Canada for that matter, is that you can really, in our experience, you can pick up the phone and call almost anybody, and they'll, if you need help, and they'll take the call and they'll help you. And that is a wonderful environment in which to be, conducting business, right? You can pick up the phone, you say, geez, if I can call this guy because I know he's done acquisitions before, I can call this woman because she's dealt with these particular challenges and whatever, and they'll take your call and they'll coach you through it and they'll follow up. And I'm not sure anywhere else in the country you have that climate of support, and so we benefited from that. So we believe strongly that we have an obligation to get back to it.
Yeah. And I think the Wallace McCain Institute is just kind of trying to take that to a whole another level of growing a strong economic region. So, and providing that support, it goes beyond networking. It's really about supporting each other and helping each other through challenges and also celebrating wins. Because, as you talked about, not everybody understands that you have a BMW parked out behind. Not that we do, but
You don't.
we definitely don't. But you know what I mean? Like but with another entrepreneur, they can understand that success and be happy for you. And that's certainly something that we've experienced through the Wallace McCain Institute of, you can, celebrate those wins with those fellow entrepreneurs and, feel good that you've accomplished something, but then also they're there for you when things are tough. So.
For sure.
That's great. That's great. Well, thanks, Rosalyn. Thanks, Blair. You're definitely superheroes in the entrepreneurial community. Everything you do, I want to thank you guys for all that you do for the local community, your employees, and just, telling your story, whether it's via LinkedIn or, other channels. It's been inspirational and refreshing to hear, the highs and the lows that you've gone through. So thanks for sharing.
Thank you.